Hello, Rod. Nice to see you.
Hi, Susanne. Great to see you too.
Thanks for joining me in this conversation. And we were
Yeah.
chatting a little bit beforehand and
Mm.
coming up with a theme. And I think what we're going to talk about is something that I think is very interesting and maybe interesting also to those listening is moving from being a seeker to a finder. And
Mm.
the
Yeah.
journey of that, which, for me it took years, but you have a particular moment in that is really beautiful that I would like to invite you to share with with us. And
Mm.
yeah, that
Well,
trip to
thank you.
India. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've actually been to India a number of times,
Mm.
and I first went when I was 19, 20 years old, and went on the bus, on the budget bus out to India, took 5 weeks, and traveled around India and visited different ashrams and monasteries. And during that time, I got glimpses of something. Well, I was interested in enlightenment and self realization, so I got glimpses of that, but
Ah,
nothing really abided.
right.
And and then after coming back from India, I was on different spiritual paths with different teachers, and I was still looking for a more abiding state of that what I thought of as enlightenment or self realization.
Right.
And but it wasn't really until a year ago
Right.
when I was actually experiencing an incredible lot of chronic fatigue, so much so that I thought maybe I'd only have a year left to live. And I thought I've got to do something. I thought my India days were over, but a friend of mine had booked had been on an Ayurvedic retreat in
Mhm.
India where they feed you these herbal medicines and they give you these herbal massages. And I thought, well, let's give that a go. So I booked my ticket to India, and kind of mysteriously, 40% of the chronic fatigue went from just booking that ticket.
That's great.
And then when I arrived, when the plane touched down and I walked out of the airport,
Yeah.
the chronic fatigue just vanished mysteriously. And what came up in this incredible sense of being. It was like this sense of being just arose out of the land of India, this ancient, mysterious land. It just rose out of the ground, as it were, and this sense of being just pervaded my awareness. And it just happened effortlessly. It was like something you could say it was grace, really, that it just sort of descended upon me. And to try and describe it, it would be I would say it was something like normally my personality was at the foreground of my experience, and in this state of being, it was like the awareness or the presence which was in the background came to the foreground, and my sense of personality went into the background, as it were. Didn't disappear, but it was there in the background.
Yeah.
And that just lasted for my whole time in India, that trip, for about 4 weeks.
Oh, lovely.
So
Oh, how delicious.
it was like miraculous. It was just beautiful. I
What
felt
was, yeah,
closest.
what was the sense at the time? Did you feel like this is a permanent state, or were you not worried about it or thinking about it?
It felt like a major shift in my awareness, in my consciousness, a beautiful shift where I just felt free
Mm.
and one with nature. And I did feel, oh wow, is this going to be abiding? Because I had had a glimpse of this, maybe another glimpse that I didn't talk about earlier on with an Advaita teacher in India some 20 years before that. Again, a big explosive experience where suddenly I wasn't identified with my thinking anymore as who I was. But it was such a strong experience that I felt that I wasn't able to contain it. And my teacher at the time said it was like 1,000 watts going through a 10-watt light bulb. And I just wasn't able to contain it.
You were kind
And
of dim, huh? 10 what? No,
I
I'm
was
joking
dim, and
with
this
you.
was
I'm
too.
joking with you. But
I
yeah, you weren't able to sustain it. Yeah, I get it. That's a really
wasn't able to sustain
powerful,
it.
image and way to a metaphor
Mm.
of why
Yeah.
something like that we can have these breakthroughs, but they're not sustainable because the system is not ready. It's not prepared enough. It's not able to hold the abiding
Mm.
reality of truth. It's not ready for it. But now you were.
Yeah, I think
Finally you
so.
were.
Yeah, I don't think I was ready for it. And also, I started to draw conclusions about myself, not humble conclusions that now I'm it, this is it, I'm enlightened. And I think there was just a
10
lack of
watts, a 10
humility.
watt thinking.
10-watt thinking,
Yeah.
yeah, couldn't bow down to the 1,000-watt experience.
Yeah. It's so
However,
common. So
about
common.
yeah, and
Anyway,
about a
sorry,
year ago,
interrupting. Yeah.
yeah, so about a year ago when this shift happened when I went to India this time, somehow it felt like my capacity to hold the experience in a way had
Yeah.
just increased a lot. My capacity was greater, and I think I was prepared not to draw conclusions about myself in the face of having this experience.
Mm.
So, and I think what I was also aware, I was aware of, I was frightened of losing that state of consciousness. I thought, well, when I go back to New Zealand, I'm from the UK, but I'm living in New Zealand now. When I go back to New Zealand, is this just going to evaporate and disappear? Um,
And it was
Fortunately,
also,
a lot of
I'm interrupting, but I think it's also to flesh it out. But also, I mean, tied in with that is that your chronic fatigue went away,
mm,
right? And
yeah,
so not
yeah,
only were you and hoping and to hold on for the abiding nature of truth to not ebb, but also for you to remain well, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, fortunately, the chronic fatigue did get it didn't totally go after that experience, but it kind of shifted quite, quite in a major way, which was great. Um, yeah, I think that in terms of seeking and finding, I think in my own experience, I think before that, I'd still considered myself a seeker because I was still looking for some kind of experience. But after that shift happened in India, I felt that it landed enough within my being to consider myself to be a finder. And that from now on, it was really a case of trying to embody that experience in my humanity rather than seeking for any further experience.
So the abiding nature of it. So for those who don't are not familiar with that term, it's when truth that's opened up, reality that's opened up doesn't ebb again. For a long time, we
Mm,
go through this journey of I've got it, I lost it, right? It comes and
mm,
goes, presence
mm,
reveals itself and it from the background to the foreground, as you said. And then
mm,
eventually, at some point, knock on wood, it just stays in the foreground. Consciousness is awake to itself
mm.
and doesn't go back unconscious. And that's what happened with you. It just stayed abiding. Would you say that moving from a seeker to a finder, so then it's remained the background and has moved to the foreground, and now it's going through the embodiment process of revealing that which is still wanting to be made conscious, but it doesn't go back to sleep while it does that. Would you say that's kind of true for you at this
I
stage?
think it's at this stage, I feel it's the presence, the awareness is within my consciousness in a much more powerful way than it's ever been. But there are times when I do slip back into the ego, slip back into my sense of I. But that seems to be part of the whole play of it all. That even the experience of going back into the I
Hmm.
is part of the experience of the
Yeah.
self, big S,
Yeah.
having part of its play of awakening to itself, it seems.
Right. Well, the I is included, right? The I is included.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the sense of I is included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the space that is awoken to itself. It wakes up to itself consciously. It's always there. Um, it includes everything. And so that's when we can't be hypnotized anymore by that sense of I. It's it's not anything that can hijack awareness anymore. It's like eventually, at least for me, that sense of I is gone. But but there was a process for me too where the I was
mm,
included and it was welcome to be, so that it's not consciousness's gaze is not absorbed in it and making it wrong or anything at that stage anymore. It's just a sense. It's not even, doesn't have to be even real, but we don't have to make it unreal. It can just let it be at some point. And when we really let something be, right, then it has a chance to be able to be reabsorbed back from where it came from, this arising of even the I, you know?
mm. Was there a particular time? Can you situate that experience for yourself, Susanna, in terms of when you felt that shift
Well,
happened
well,
from being a seeker to a
a
finder?
secret to a finder. Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really long, long journey and a trajectory, where the felt sense of being a seeker came pretty young, as soon as I felt like I was losing this felt sense of wholeness. As a child, I felt wholeness. And then I could feel it ebbing, and then I didn't have all those words yet of spirituality. It was just I knew something was missing. And then in my early 20s, I went on, I wanted to become uh, a finder again of this innate knowing that wholeness existed, but I didn't know how to do it. I had no clue. So that was a long kind of trajectory journey, and I would dip in and out of different types of presences, whether it was awareness, just sort of spacious awareness, or feeling the sense of presence vibrationally, one with nature and feeling the vibration of
Mm,
tree and feeling connected, feeling that presence.
mm,
So it would come and go, I would say, for a long time. And I knew intuitively that someday it was going to just stay. But I was, hungry for it. I was a hungry
mm.
seeker. And and uh and I didn't have I've had different types of teachers, but I didn't have one cohesive teacher at the time or ever really that was saying, this is the way you do it. You do this and this and this and this to come back home. So I was really growing the that Satguru that lives inside, the innate teacher
Mm. Yeah.
that knows how to do this.
Yeah.
To learn how to trust this knowing was
Mm.
kind of my path. And if a teacher came, it was part of that guidance that there was something
Mm.
there for me.
Yes.
And luckily, I got drawn to um, really good teachers. I just had that
Mm-hmm.
blessing, that grace. We all have different graces.
Mm-hmm.
We all have different types of graces we might not be aware of because they're so part of our lives. Like some people don't worry about money. Some people
Mm.
have just a lot of friends. Some people have a really tight family. Some people have good
Mm.
health or whatever, or lucky enough to be born in a country that's not war torn. I would say that's a huge grace. Well, so we have all
Mm.
these graces that we're not even aware of, and many of them, not just one. So one of my graces is that I mean, grace, I mean, blessings. That's the word.
Mm.
Blessed art thou. So one of my blessings, I guess, I was lucky to have know a true teacher when I saw it, and one that didn't
Mm.
cause me harm. So anyway,
Mm.
so I didn't get that kind of pain from that. But so yeah, so different beings would come into my life, and I just felt like I was just being gradually guided back home to remember intrinsic wholeness, that it exists
Mm.
here and everyone contains, we all contain our intrinsic wholeness, home. And so I love that, remembering your way home, kind of thing. And
Mm.
so there were lots of little moments, but there was one moment in particular, coming back to your question. Sorry, it's a little, I always go
No, it's
back a little
great.
bit to bring
Yeah.
context to things.
Mm.
Um, I, it was just like presence was alive and well, but it was still not all the way, I call it being synced up. There was
Mm.
still a little gap there that was
Mm.
still, it knew that there was still, it wasn't all the way done. Very subtle
Mm.
gap, a little gap between me and what I saw outside of me. What
Mm.
I did is really used nature as my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would
Mm.
I went to this one beautiful retreat center where I could do self-led retreats. And um, it's in the Ramakrishna tradition. They don't charge. So I was like, a single mom with not a lot of money. So that was wonderful. And it's on 500 acres. So a lot of land right near the ocean in Northern California. So I just would go and spend hours and hours and hours outside, take a little blanket, sit under the trees, listen to the birds. And I consciously used it in a way to be able to melt this kind of little gap
Mm.
that I still sense between me and that,
Mm.
like
Mm-hmm.
subject,
Mm.
object, object, subject. Like there was still a little gap. I
Mm-hmm.
felt the
Mm-hmm.
presence, I felt the aliveness, but it was still a something.
Mm.
It was still,
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
how in word with vocabulary, we've turned everything into an object through language.
Mm-hmm.
Nature was
Yeah.
nature. It wasn't like wholeness. It was still there,
Mm-hmm.
nature, even though I could feel
Right.
it. So
Yeah.
I was sitting there very quietly, and a beautiful young buck came through the meadow, not far, and I was so still, just watching. Very young with little fuzzy antlers. And I was watching it, and through that watching, this subject object thing just melted perp. And it
Mm.
had happened before, right? Where I'd just be, just one looking at itself. S- Just seeing was happening, seeing, looking, and it was one thing, one seeing. Well, it never left. It just was done.
Wow.
It just was
Wow.
finally done. But it was a lot of long period of time leading up to that. Wow. It was just like done. And it was so
Mm.
natural and so simple. There were a lot of other types of awakenings I won't go into now that were a little bit more dramatic and like
Mm-hmm.
big dimensional shifts. This was more like just sliding into true nature, into what we really are, this remembering the homecoming.
Mm.
Got up, and there was never a felt sense of separation ever again.
Wow.
Yeah, it was,
Wow.
but
It's
I
amazing
worked
that.
hard at it, Rod. I'm not saying everybody listening has to work hard at it. I worked hard at it, but it was with devotion and love, and it worked. And that's one of the things that you
Mm.
and I were talking about before we pressed record.
Mm.
Talking about how one thing we'd like to impart, and maybe you can share something about this for you, is that there's really something to this, that that that
Mm.
that the spiritual journey and seeking, if it's done right, and it's not just a bunch of beliefs and constructs and just more doing and looking for something and always carrot on the stick, but that if it's really whatever, however it happens, grace and sincerity and good teaching, but that there really is a homecoming, that coming back to ourselves, that is I would say, uh, dare I say the word achievable, but just, there is something that really can take place, that we are able to do this, that it really does
Mm.
exist. People have talked about
Yeah.
it for centuries, and there's truth
Yeah.
to it, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's something absolutely real.
Yeah.
And it's something I think that life wants to happen. I mean, life wants to fulfill itself through each one of us. And I think if we open the doors to it, it will happen. Sooner or later, it will happen. Because life wants to fulfill itself, and it wants to fulfill itself in and through us. That's the way I feel about it.
And it's so natural, right? When it does. Like, isn't it a natural
Yeah, totally.
feeling?
Yeah, it's like a falling away of the
Yeah.
striving and a falling away of, yeah, trying to attain something.
Isn't it nice
Yeah.
that how it's called the natural state or just true nature,
Mm,
different ways of putting
mm,
it? Remember
mm.
self.
Yeah, and it's not I don't think it's something to kind of um well, there's the embodiment phase after that realization. So it's not as if you've kind of can just sit back and put your feet up. I think that I know for myself, I feel there's so many ways that I need to, or life wants to, you could say, manifest more fully through me. And there's areas, like in my relationships, how I go about my day to day activities that need to line up more with this realization. So there's a whole nother journey there. Although I feel like the base from which I'm going about that embodiment it's a different foundation, which
Yeah.
is real.
No, absolutely. So it's like the ground of being. I'm using different words in case it sparks for people because people have different ways of
Yeah.
speaking of this. So the ground of being is realizes itself. It's not a personal self that wakes up. It's the personal self gets out of the way enough for what is always here to reveal itself. And then
Are you using the
abiding.
word? Are you using the phrase "grounded being" in terms of presence and
Yeah,
awareness?
yeah,
Mm,
same. Um, yeah, so that's the backdrop and when it's abiding, it's a constant. And then, like you say about the embodiment phase, embodiment is just that this awareness that one that has woken up to itself, this presence. It's like it wants to reconcile all the parts that don't know that yet. And there's a lot of
mm,
content. It depends on how
mm,
much one has left because a lot of us on the journey, we along the way, we're freeing ourselves also of beliefs and traumas and pain body. And it's just it doesn't all wait till once one has remembered the self. That's not the way it works. There's a lot of process that happens, evolution and maturation of what the
mm,
conditioning that it frees itself, it releases it through grace and through hard work. And so when this understanding comes in of the abiding nature of what we really are, it gets to work on what's remaining. Wouldn't you agree?
hmm. Yes, I think so. Yeah. I
Like,
can remember just experience a few days ago actually where I was having a conversation with somebody and I was aware of presence and I was aware of awareness and I was listening to them. And it felt like in that deep listening, it was almost like I was reconfiguring some kind of pathways in my brain to not be responding in the old kind of familiar way, but to allow something new to actually be expressed in that situation. So it's almost as if, some rewiring was kind of happening.
yeah, I've heard that and I felt it too, that there's a real brain rewiring that happens and then the
Mm,
body,
mm,
the body. Yeah, it's kind of a miracle,
mm,
how divine intelligence, how it gets to work on
mm.
on harmonizing the system and rewiring, as you said. so that so this
Yeah.
that's been realized and open to can live here unencumbedly. So it's a clear translation of what's true versus a bundle of beliefs and conditioning that is not useful. We're always going to be
Mm.
conditioned to some degree. We have to be
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
function. But yeah, it doesn't need a lot of it. A lot of it doesn't need. Have you had the experience, because I have, but have you had the experience of like some memories falling away or like where you just can't remember certain parts of your past?
I think it's more like old patterns arising where in the past I would have identified with that as who I was. You know, some old kind of thought pattern would come along and, oh, that's who I am. And now it's like, oh, that's an old thought pattern. I don't need to identify that with that anymore.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's fresh and
So,
it's comfortable, more and more comfortable living it as the unknown.
yes. Well, I think that is part of all of this is that just sort of leading up to the kind of the Indian experience and shift that I had was I'd have these experiences of not knowing who I was, and they would just come about by themselves spontaneously. And I found that in the beginning a bit disorientating, not knowing who I was. Because, you know, up until then, it was like I'd go through life and I'd be in a certain situation talking to somebody. I knew who I was, it was very familiar. And then it was something like this experience was coming where I didn't actually know in a fixed way who I was anymore. And I found that quite disorientating, actually.
Yeah,
And until I just thought, you know, um, I don't need to make a big deal out of that. I don't really need to know who I am in a kind of a solid, fixed way. I can let that be kind of very diffuse and very kind of loose. And actually, when I'm not hanging on to a fixed idea of who I am, I relate much better to other people and I relate much more freely in my life without having that kind of solid
that's
sense.
I love that way you put that, Rod. I really can sense it. Yeah, I used to call it for me, what I saw is literally I saw landing places in the vast space that there were these landing places, like these different, just held up by nothing. And that the conditioned thought was jumping from landing place to landing place. This is how I know myself through this thought, through this way of perceiving reality. And but it was jumping through space to get there. And eventually I realized there's a lot more space than landing places. And
Mm,
and the falling away and the comfort of not needing any
mm,
place to land. So the free fall of the unboundedness of consciousness that it
mm,
just what something knows and let that what knows and it just moved into the foreground more and more. That guidance of the intelligence of what knows is going to it's been doing this anyway. It's been,
hmm,
and mind has been imagining that it's been doing these, through thought being so, it happens so quickly, just one thought after another or one
mm,
way of being a doer. The way the doer is made to continue, the feeling of it is as the eye. It's just, it seems
yeah,
seamless, until one, well, opens up more and more into this that is really living. The wisdom, the innate wisdom comes forward. And I just, that shift from one state of consciousness to another was a passageway. It didn't happen all at once. It was a
mm,
journey,
mm,
what I was saying.
mhm,
And it was so
mm.
delightful to just really finally just give it up. Just
Wow.
it's just so much
Yeah.
more comfortable just letting this that knows speak, let this that knows
Wow.
function and walk and talk.
Yeah.
That's just the way
Wow.
it ends up being. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That's amazing. I love the way you describe those landing places, just letting go of all those landing places. It feels like, from what you're saying, Susanna, there was a great sense of joy and happiness from you in letting go of those landing places.
Yeah, yeah. I have a quick little short story you may enjoy and others listening. I may have told this story at one point somewhere in my talks. But So I would go once a month for a while when my kids were little and all this falling away was taking place. I was a single mom in Northern California, taking care of the kids three-quarters time. And so I had very little time to be deconstructed, and I was being deconstructed on a massive level. So
Mm,
so once a month I would make the journey to East Berkeley, and you have to go over this bridge from Marin and all this stuff. And I was
mm,
go see this Buddhist nun teacher who had been a Buddhist nun, so she was no longer, but she was very mature, very wise, very awake. And I would just bring her something because I didn't have a bunch of money, and she didn't ask for any money. She was financially doing fine. So I would bring her a coconut or some flowers I picked, on my way there. From, pick one flower here, one flower there,
yeah.
and present a bouquet. And but that, just as a gesture of respect. But I would go see her, and so we had this little connection, and I felt very held and supported. And so one day I was at home with feeding the kids. They were like three and no, they were like 4 and 5 or something, very young. And so much was falling away that I couldn't remember what I was doing. Like I put the ketchup in the freezer and I was like,
Mm,
I didn't, like so much was being undone, including doing.
mm,
And I had a
mm,
slight moment of anxiety. Like, I'm in this
mm.
role of parenting. This is not
Right.
just me on
Yeah.
retreat somewhere, right? I have
Mm,
responsibilities. These are kids are in my care and all that. So I picked up the phone and I called this teacher, and I never tried calling her like that before. And she picked up
mm.
and she says, I never pick up. So here we were, and I just told her what was happening. I said everything is fault. I felt
Wow.
it was like in the Matrix, when you saw those things
Uh-huh.
falling down, those
Yeah.
I don't know what they were, numbers
Mm.
or letters, or it was like everything was melting. Everything I
Yeah.
looked at wasn't,
Yeah.
I couldn't hold it to be real. And the tree wasn't really a tree, and the bird wasn't really a bird, and
Mm.
everything was falling, and I didn't know how to be in that moment. It was a beautiful moment, but it was like there was a part of me scrambling to maintain solidity because the me was
Mm.
falling away. The me,
Mm-hmm.
the landing place of
Mm.
consciousness was being disassembled to a degree, and it was like the outer reality was matching what was happening on the inside.
Wow. Yeah.
So I explained to her briefly, and she said the most perfect thing, and may everyone have a
Ah.
moment like this if you need it. She said with this beautiful sing-song magical voice that sounded like little bells chiming, literally. She said,
Mm.
it sounds like you're calling to celebrate,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And everything just kind of settled. Like, yeah,
Wow.
I'm
Beautiful.
celebrating. And
Wow.
rather than something's wrong, or
Yeah.
let's put you back
Right.
together, or talk you off the ledge, or there was nothing like that. It's more like, let's celebrate. And everything just kind of calmed down. Disappearing is safe, it's welcomed, and something to be celebrated. And
Mm.
so then the wonder came back in versus a little anxiety.
Mm. Wow. That's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And the teacher said the right thing at the right time to really help you.
I mean, the brilliance of teacher in the right moment, it's life being teacher,
Mm.
right? It's so the brilliance of that. You can't make
Mm.
that stuff up. And we
Mm.
need one another. There's a
That's
time and place where we need one another. It's not just you know, life and it's sort of abstract, or gurus on the abstract, on the inner. And sometimes we need a real life human being
mm.
been
Mm.
who's realized to enough degree that they can
Mm.
say something
Yeah.
like that. But sounds like you're called to celebrate. It was just like
Mm.
sometimes we need that touchstone of a human being. That's what I discovered.
Yeah, somebody who you really trust and um, I was going to say look up to, but look up to in a way where you're not putting them on a pedestal, but somebody who you really trust, and they can guide you in a way which, yeah, sometimes you just need that human being, I
Yeah,
think, to be able to do that.
right. Well, itself, having realized itself over there, recognizing
Mm,
just the right thing for this, for the self here to be, you know, um, what it needs in that moment, the right medicine. Yeah, it's not anything to do with pedestal. It's more the naturalness of what we are. It's like the world that I want to live in.
mm,
The naturalness of us encountering one another in the naturalness that we are in sync with Mother Earth and all nature and all creatures.
mm.
That's, the invitation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think for me at the moment, what I'm experimenting with is being in groups of people and groups of seekers and finders, basically. So that, it's one thing to have a wonderful time with the teacher and to feel coming close to your true self with the teacher. And I think it's another thing also, another beautiful experience is coming together with other people, a group of people in spirit, in oneness, in a way that just isn't usually possible in most kind of situations that you're in. And for me, there's something about like when you go into deep meditation and you can feel the expanse and you can feel that sense of infinity and the sense of the timeless. That's wonderful when you experience that, yourself, but to experience that with a group of other people as well, I think is a very special thing. And I think yeah, there's something wonderful about a group of human beings who can kind of put their egos aside and really come together in the truth of who they are as a collective. So I'm involved in about 3 different groups at the moment, and we're all kind of exploring that in different ways. And I think that's another way that we can also be helped in our own, whether we're seekers or finders. If we're a seeker, I think it can help us to become a finder being in a group like that. And then if we're finders, I think these groups can help us to embody our own realization.
Mm, I love that. It's as you know that Vietnamese Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh,
Mm,
he passed away
yeah.
2 years ago, but he spoke about the next Buddha being the sangha.
Mm,
He said the next Buddha is the sangha, and he was speaking to um, that kind of mysterious force that takes place when we're leaning into what we know to be true.
mm,
Acknowledge for ourselves
mm,
that something knows. There's a time and place, as you say, for teacher. There's a time and place for, well, I see life as the main teacher, all life,
mm,
which includes all of
yeah.
us. That's always
Yeah.
been my main teacher is life.
Mm, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
within that, there are teachers that show up, or individuals, or even
Mm,
animals, pets, and even a wild animal, tree,
yeah.
a boulder, or
Yeah.
a mountain. I've had all of these beings be teachers for me at different times. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Susanna, you were part of a sangha at one point, weren't you? Was that when you were at a seeker stage, or would you consider yourself to be a finder at that point when you were part of a sangha?
Yeah, when I was part of a sangha, it was during this time that I just described, where my kids were little and the self was being deconstructed. There had already
Mm,
been an awakening to the emptiness, to the empty nature in a huge way, in a huge way.
mm,
But when I got involved with a beautiful sangha, who I don't feel like naming, it's just,
mhm,
just imagine a really good sangha, healthy sangha.
Mm,
Um, I was I was shifting from emptiness into unity consciousness and realizing everything is that. And to what degree. And then I went through a long journey of embodiment, like a really long journey of everything getting to know itself as that, through and through the human being, and including the human being. But yeah, so the Sangha, I it just felt supportive. I found nourishment in it to know that I wasn't alone, but it wasn't necessarily it was still very much an individual without the I, just an individual journey that was taking place, that was still coming home to itself all the way. And the Sangha was more like a circle of others that were in to various degrees as seekers and finders, as you put it, on their path. But what was nice is to know that there is a, including those who are listening, that they're the truth lovers, that we're a large sangha in a way. The one,
mm,
just being interested in coming back home is nourishing to, because it's like a larger tribe without needing to necessarily touch the people themselves, but to know. And it's also the past for me, all the beings who have walked the trail of going home, the truth trail, that they have helped pave the way, I would say, but without paving. It's more like a well-worn path
mm,
that it has made it to where I'm so grateful. It's made it to where it's easier and easier for all of us because we're part of one great um,
mm,
movement of throughout time and hopefully in the future too, that is a stream that one can plug into regardless of belief of traditions. It's a stream of truth that is has life to it. I feel it. I feel it. So to me, that's my sangha. My sangha are truth lovers, wisdom bearers, and finders. And the seekers
mm,
are part of the tribe because it's a devotion to something that we're all in
mm,
alignment with, a singular devotion. However we get there uniquely,
mm,
you know?
mm. Yeah, yeah. Well, as you know, I was on a retreat with you just in Colorado, just I think it was last October now. And after that retreat, it was a wonderful retreat, and yeah, it was a really beautiful retreat, Susanna. And what I felt was that although I felt this incredible sense of coming back to my true self, that I wanted to experience that with other people. And so I feel that this is, for me, is a very important part of the journey at the moment. Is maybe it's a bit like you're saying, this sort of like part of being together with the tribe, as it were. I think I think if we can come together as individuals in this sense of collective awakening, you could call it. I just think that's a very important step for us at the moment as
Yeah.
seekers and
I
finders.
love it. I love it. Well, it's acknowledging innate wisdom in one another. And I think that whatever is acknowledged, don't you? Whatever is acknowledged, it has a better chance of finding voice. So
Mm,
I just remembered that there's this beautiful child psychologist. I think he was from the 80s or he was born in the 50s. I can't remember exactly. His name is Joseph Clinton Pierce, and he wrote a beautiful
mm,
book called The Magical Child. And in it, he said the one thing that stuck out with me that just feels pertinent to what we're talking about. He was beautiful being. And he said the most beautiful and important, valuable gift you can give a child, one's own child or any just energetically, and it applies to this, is that you see and acknowledge their potential.
Mm,
but not your idea of your potential. That's what parents and adults often do is we project our
mm,
what we want for them, but acknowledge
mhm,
that they have their a unique potential that they're going to live into, and you trust that that's
mm,
going to take place. You trust it for them, and the
mm,
child receives that trust
mm,
that like that they're seen and they contain something brilliant and magical and whole that is going to find its way into life and be lived. And so that's
mm,
kind of how I see when I when I hold groups and when I work with people and when I'm in retreats. And I just see it similar to you, to these groups, any groups coming together, if holding that vision and potential, knowing it lives and it's really there. It's there as not just individually in each, but as a what I sense with what you're talking about too, and what I know to be true, is that it bursts something. That potential gets birth and it finds voice. It comes alive. It becomes
mm,
alive,
mm,
like
mm,
spirit is alive.
mm. Because spirit wants to express itself, and these kind of forums are opportunities for people to express
Yeah,
their truths.
yeah.
So,
I love it.
yeah.
I love it. It's so non-hierarchical. I mean, as much as possible.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that is one of the really positives of these groups is that there isn't, when they're working well, there's no individual who's kind of at the top of the hierarchy.
yeah,
It's like the group is taking responsibility for itself. It's sort
yeah.
of self autonomous, so to
Yeah.
speak.
It's an
Yeah.
exploration that I think life
Yeah.
is dancing with more and more of
Mm.
intrinsic wisdom. At the same time, I don't want to too quickly, and it's not just because I'm a teacher, but I don't want to too
Mm.
quickly dethrone those who have skills and different types of
Yes.
skills. One is
Yeah.
facilitating, and one is also there is something that really does take place with realization. And then not
Mm.
everyone who's had a realization, this is something I've come to understand, and also in myself in terms of learning how to become a better and better transcriber of truth, is that a
Mm.
mastery of being able to speak what has been realized is not necessarily a part of realization. Realization can take place, and there can be it won't come that there's a way to be able to speak it. It's not everybody is meant to do it in that way. Of course, it's going to be
Hmm.
lived. It's going to be spoken
Yeah.
and transmitted naturally. But to be able to
Yeah.
speak to the nuance is not necessarily everybody's skill or even interest for
Mm.
that matter. And the way I
Right.
see it is we all
Yeah.
have different masteries. I mean, literally, but it doesn't mean that one is better that one type of mastery is better than another. Like there's bakers, there's carpenters, there's writers, there's dancers, there's teachers of children in mathematics. There's this different masteries. So to completely say that a type, maybe it'll morph into something more just more healthy, a healthier way of being with different types of those who have mastered things versus abdicating authority or and a lot of that has to do with the oneself, one's own journey of how to be with teachers. Like when I spoke about that woman uh, who told me about the celebrating you called to celebrate. I didn't see her as outside myself. And
Mm.
I didn't
Interesting.
see, uh,
Yeah.
it's a journey of coming home and then you see, you can see that there's skills there. You can see that there's maybe even doors of perception that have been opened that are, unique to be, or maybe not lived in fully here. But self is dancing with self at that point in a certain kind of way. Does that make sense?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. It's great.
Yeah. there's a lot of
Mm.
learning for both teachers and students and just even groups, as you said it. There's a lot to be learned in terms of coming back to inner authority and not needing to topple authorities. It's like a just like real wisdom and healthy understanding of this dance that we're doing together here.
Yeah, I think nothing's going to replace. I think these groups, they're not going to replace the teacher student. I don't think there's any need for the groups to replace the teacher student kind of relationship, that paradigm. I think that's, like you say, there's nothing quite like a realized teacher, how they can really help the individual at a particular time. That's a kind of a unique experience. And at the same time, I think that, people can really benefit from being in these groups where there's kind of an enlightened field there.
Mm.
That's also a fantastic thing. But I don't think it's a case of one or the other. I think they're both great for different
Yeah,
different reasons.
the Buddha field. Yeah, I mean, I hope that someday it does replace Rod. I hope someday it does.
Really?
Well,
Wow.
well, it would just mean that the world is woken up, that human beings are, I mean, it doesn't need the teacher or these even these great beings that come and support us um throughout time. It's self-caring for itself. It's there to be able to support and help elevate and the suffering that's here. This that it's just about wanting
Mm.
to support the waking up and realize what causes suffering. It's all out of care and love. But when it's done, there's no need to maintain it. If when it's done, it's done.
So you think that, wow, yeah, that's interesting that you say that, that really that the guru or the teacher student relationship, even that could be transcended in the bigger scheme of evolution. That wouldn't actually be needed,
No.
ideally.
Well, when self meets self and it's just recognized as same, then there's a natural flow of life that's just gonna take place. Same.
Mm.
And then, oh, you have a
Wow.
way with words. How nice. You're a poet.
Mhm.
Oh, you have
Right.
an insight. There's always going to be creativity.
Mm.
There's always going to be creativity, and some will be amazing flower decorators or word spinners, or did you
Mm.
notice that way that this is doing that in life? And but it's going to be the uniqueness of that's expressing itself versus once the self-forgetting has eased and people are in remembering why continue a certain formula. It's just
Mm.
there in its best form. It's not always in its best form, right, teachers? But in its very
Mm.
highest potential, it's out of love and care for the suffering. And it's just that using itself as that to be able to point it
Mm.
out.
Mm.
But once it's done, it's done. It's like go move, do something else.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I would love just to be able to serve tea and talk about the web.
Well, I'm glad you're also teaching, Susanna. A lot of people are benefiting.
Oh, well, you're sweet. You're sweet. I enjoy it. There is a joy to it. There's a joy. There's a joy.
Mm.
Yeah. But even greater joy would be if there was no more suffering on that level. That would be the greatest joy.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for doing what you do. And we're going to include your email, right? Are we?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If
And
anyone's
it,
interested in
hmm
collective dialogue, they
hmm
could email me. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Oh, it's fun being with you.
Thanks, Susanna. It's great to talk.
Always fun being with you.
Yeah,
Well,
lovely.
one last thing. How is your
Yeah.
chronic fatigue now?
It's better, quite a lot better. And I think one of the things I really need, every now and then, I just need to go to to break out of being in New Zealand. Being here, I live on a farm and we're doing a restoration project here, which is wonderful. But sometimes I just need to break out and go somewhere different.
Mhm.
And that seems to give me a lot of energy just to go to a new place with, new sights and smells and, experiences.
Yeah, that not to go down that trail too much, but it brings up that kind of interesting um kind of exploration of place, how different places bring out different parts of us,
Mm,
I mean,
mm.
I'm sure you've noticed that
Yeah,
different
yeah, definitely.
land and mountains and the
Yeah,
energies of the
yeah.
planet.
There was some, yeah, that last trip that I had to India, there was something about just arriving in India. I don't know what it was. It sort of seemed to be deep in my cells somewhere, this being in India, and it seemed to bring out something in me in a way that maybe other places just don't do.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
vibrational signature matches something in you and it brings out
Yes.
the vibration
Yes.
meets itself and it hums.
Yeah, something like that.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. At one time I was and I can share it with you and
Mm,
anyone who is interested to contemplate this because this doesn't belong to me. But literally the words came in like 4 or 5 years ago. It said, um, how does the body feel as it moves through space and time? So to the noticing, to be aware of like, how does the body feel? Because the separate self sense leaves. So what knows? A lot of it is
mm,
the body, the intelligence of the body. The body is
mm.
made of nature. And how does it feel as it moves through space and time? That means location, right? Here,
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So I'm very
Yeah.
attuned to how the body feels in different places. And some places, literally, I end up losing health.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
other places, it's like come alive and creativity even can bloom. It's very interesting how that works. And it's unique for each person because of our uniqueness or how it's going to
Mm,
feel. So that's a lot. I think a lot of us don't realize the impact of environment
mm,
and not only location, but human beings and work and food, all that is part of the environment of what we're taking in, what we're taking in.
mm. I think I remember it was one of Yogananda's disciples, I think, said something like, or maybe it was even Yogananda who said this, that environment um, is more important than, I don't know if you know the quote,
I
but
do.
environment is more important than one's own will or something like
Yeah.
that.
Environment's
Uh,
stronger than will.
so environment is stronger than will.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, that's
I love
so.
that quote.
So the environments that we place ourselves in are so important in terms of our own development, our own lives.
Right. And the great beings that, we all have our unique take on who they are, which is perfect. Um, um, a lot of them were very attuned to environment and would move their
Mm.
bodies, and say, this is better for me. This is where the ashram should be built,
Right.
so
Yeah.
on. So there was like an attunement with Earth, Mother Earth herself, and they knew their spot, like Carlos Castaneda with Don Juan.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember
Mm-hmm.
those books, Don Juan was
Mm.
teaching Carlos about where his spot was in any room in a given time. Where's the place of power for you? And he knew
Wow.
ahead of time where it was. And then finally, Carlos was able to put his body in that place of power where it was most in alignment,
Wow.
right? It's so cool.
Mm. That's amazing. Like Ramana, it was his mountain. I'm not sure if I can pronounce it, Arunachala or something.
Arunachala.
That was his mountain, and he felt that that was the place for him to be. There was
Yeah,
something magical
yeah,
about that
right.
place.
I just love that he found that so young and it called him. He was 16. I think he ran away from home. it called him, and
Mm.
it's so mysterious. And here we think, and I love this part too, is that we think that truth is all about the transcendent. It's not. We know this. This is an embodiment channel. But first, there's the waking up to that which always is, that what we've been speaking to, which is abiding, that we find that. And then the embodiment of it. But the embodiment contains body within it, of course, that word. And then the body then becomes more of a thing of nature, a natural thing of nature. And it knows where to
Mm.
place itself. And it's like, losing, but it's not to be like overly fascinated and addicted to it and just hyper vigilant, but just more the awareness of how it feels. Animals are the
Mm.
same. They
Mm.
they know where to move their bodies.
Yeah, and I think it's like being, for me, being in nature, getting my hands in the soil, walking in the trees, planting grasses and, native trees here in New Zealand. That's all part of being in nature, being in the environment, and how that feeds spirit.
One last thing on my part, and then you might have something, is just that I just want to make clear that truth is truth no matter where it is on the planet or wherever
Mm.
it's located in whatever environment or situation. What is
Mm.
still always what is. It's just that vibrationally there is a um well, what came to me, how does the body feel as it moves through space and time? Vibrationally, there's a way to be able to be sensitive and tune in to where it really wants to be.
Mm.
Part of being here.
Yeah,
That's all. Yeah.
yeah,
Any last
beautiful. Yeah.
bits that you feel to mention? No?
No, that's beautiful. I think that's a great way to end.
Okay. Oh, thanks for this
Yeah.
conversation.
Thanks, Susanna. Great
Yeah.
to be here with you and to talk.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love knowing you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.